If I say to you that today I'm going to talk about a boy who changed the world, okay? A boy who changed the world, right? I want some hands up to think, I want some suggestions or ideas. Who could this boy be in our Islamic history? Okay, so the question is, the boy who changed the world in our Islamic history. Yep. Who? Tariq ibn Ziyad. Good guess. Anyone else? Someone from this side, yep. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Definitely he changed the world, but we're not talking about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? Who else? Anyone over this side? Yep. Muhammad al-Fatih. Very good guess. Yeah? So East London Masjid, the youth in East London Masjid, they like the warriors. Yeah? That's coming out here, yeah? What else? Who else could it be? Who else? Yep. The world. Yani the earth is the earth. He was a man from this ummah, a blessed man. Right, let me give you a clue. His lineage goes back to the second Khalifa of Islam. Yep. Abdullah ibn Umar. Nope. Who? Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah ta'ala. Yes, we're going to talk about him. But before we do, I want you to think about qualities. You know, we had a few different personalities of Islam mentioned. We had Tariq ibn Ziyad, Muhammad al-Fatih. We had the Prophet ﷺ himself. We had Khulafa mentioned. I mentioned Umar ibn al-Khattab. You had someone else mentioned Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. These people changed the world, every single one of them. There were characteristics that every single one of them had, which were the same. So if I was going to say to you, think about what the characteristics are that a person requires to change the world for the better. Okay? What the characteristics you need to change the world for the better. What would you say? What are the characteristics? Yep. Determination. 100%. You can't achieve anything without determination. Yep. Intelligence. 100%. Determination, intelligence, what else? Yep. Patience is similar to determination. Yeah. So, yep. Hard work. Yeah. That comes all under the patience and perseverance. Yep. What else? Wisdom. Same as intellect. Similar to that. But there's one key characteristic that none of you have mentioned so far. That's our young brother here, yep. Huh? Praise Allah. What he's actually referring to is taqwa. Yeah? If you don't have taqwa of Allah, you're not going to achieve anything really positive in this world. It's not going to happen. What you will achieve is only going to last those few moments that you're living in this world. And it's only going to be for this world. Okay? Now, the personality that we're going to live these few moments that we're going to spend together with, I want to start his story. And I want you, while I'm going through his story very quickly, because his history is big, so I'm going to summarize it for you in the 20 odd minutes that I have. And at the end, I'm going to ask you, what were the key qualities that made him someone who changed the world? And that's what he did. The key qualities that allowed him to change the world. So his story actually starts in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So you all know that Umar ibn al-Khattab, during the night when he was Khalifa, he would walk around the streets of Medina, patrolling the streets of Medina himself, and seeing what the situation of Medina was and his people. So one night when he's walking around, and he had issued an order, and you know the justice of Umar ibn Khattab. He would not allow any kind of injustice, cheating, treachery, and he would make sure people were honest in their trade. He'd given an order. He had said to the people, no one is allowed to mix water in their milk to make the milk more. So then he passes by this house, And he hears a conversation between a mother and her daughter. The mother is saying to the daughter, add water to the milk. So we have more milk, so we'll make more money. We'll make more profit. The daughter, she turns around, a very young girl, she turns around to her mother and she says, but oh my mother, haven't you heard the command of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the leader of the Muslims, Umar ibn al-Khattab? He said that no one is allowed to do this. The mother turned to the daughter and she said, and what will make Umar know what we're doing? He's not going to be aware of what we're up to. Then the daughter listened to her reply. She said, even if Umar doesn't know, the Lord of Umar will know. It's not that we worship Umar ibn al-Khattab. We obey him because of our worship of Allah. These words, mighty, powerful words, struck the heart of Umar ibn al-Khattab. He marked the door that night. The next morning, he gathered all of his sons that were not married. And he said to them, which one of you wishes to marry so that I can marry him off? One of his sons, Asim ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said, me, O father, I want to get married. He said, go to this house that I have marked and I'm going to marry you off to this pious young woman. He took his son and he proposed for the daughter and they were married. Okay, these two, they get married and they have a daughter. Her name is Layla. She grows up. And there was, from the elite, after Umar ibn Khattab has passed away, she ends up marrying Abdul Aziz. But before I say this, during the reign of Umar, while he was still alive, he had a dream. In the dream, he saw one of his children, a grandchild of his, and then he used to narrate it to the people around him, the people of Medina. He said, one of my children will come, and he has a scar in his face, a big scar in his face, and he will fill the world with justice just like it was filled with injustice. So he would narrate it. And then he also, in some of the narrations, it says he would tell them, and his name will be Umar. Some of the narrations he actually says, and his name will be Umar. So then, Layla marries Abdul Aziz. And they have a son, what's his name? Umar. Okay? A young child. His father, Abdul Aziz, is the leader, the appointed minister, leader, ruler, if you like, of Misr, of Egypt. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is born in Egypt. So he's growing up in Egypt. Yeah, Egypt, they call it Dunya. Yeah, the mother of the world. Now he grows up in Egypt. He's growing up, and one day he's out with his father, and they're in the stables with the horses, and what happens? The horse bucks and it hits Umar in the face. Yeah? And he gets scarred in his face and blood is pouring out. His father grabs him, deals with the bruise and the cut and the blood, and then he says to him, if you are the one that Umar was talking about, then that is a great blessing for you. So right at that moment, his father's thinking, it could be my son. It could be my son. Up until that point, they thought it was a son of Ibn Umar. Abdullah ibn Umar had a son called Bilal. They thought it was him because he had such a great stature, such great qualities. But at this point, the father of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he says, if this is you, then that's the greatest blessing for you. So he sends his son to go and study and learn in Al-Madinah. He sends him from Egypt, go to the scholars and go to the pious people and learn from them and learn from being in Medina itself. So he's growing up and his father puts him in the care of one of the scholars of Medina, Salih ibn Kaysan. So he's growing up over there. And one day, after he's learned his Qur'an, He's memorized the whole Qur'an. He's memorized many hadith. After all of that, one day, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is late for salah. He's late for salah. Did he miss the salah? No, he was late. So Salih bin Kaysan, his teacher, he sees him in the back rows, finishing off the prayer after everyone's finished. He says to him, so what was the problem? Why did you get late for salah today? Umar says to him, I had a servant who was combing my hair. And because of my hair not sitting straight, I got delayed for salah. Salih ibn Kaysan is not happy with this answer. Your hair prevented you from getting to salah on time? He sends a letter to his father. To Abdul Aziz, he sends him a letter in Misr. His father immediately, when receiving the letter, what do you think he does? What do you think he does? Yep. Huh? So you know the story, yeah? You guessed. He says, right. He gets a messenger and he says to the messenger, come here. Go to my son in Medina. And when you go to him, do not speak to him. When you meet him, take him and cut all his hair off. Tarbiyah. How dare you let your hair prevent you from getting to salah on time? Let me teach you the value of salah. Okay? Sometimes the teaching is harsh, but that benefits the believer. Something like salah can't be taken lightly. That is your connection with Allah. If you lose that, you lose everything. So that's exactly what happens. Do you think Umar ever got late for salah again? Never. But Umar is living a life of luxury. He is the son of a leader, the one who's leading over there in Misr. And his relatives, Banu Umayyah, they are the ones who are ruling the Ummah at the time. His father, sadly, passes away while Umar is still young. So now, Umar spends time with the leadership of the Khilafah at the time, his uncle, Abdul Malik. While growing up with Abdul Malik, his uncle likes him and he marries his daughter Fatima to Umar. So now he has a wife. So he's become an adult, he's growing up. He's lived with the rulers of the Khilafah at the time. Abdul Malik, so the father of Fatima, was the Khalifa. Her grandfather was the Khalifa. When her father dies, her brother becomes the Khalifa. Walid ibn Abdul Malik, he becomes the Khalifa. But in the time of Walid is a corrupt person. And in his time, his family are taking the wealth of the people, using it for their own luxuries and benefits. Injustice starts to spread. People are complaining. But he knows that Umar is a good man, so he puts him in charge of Al-Medina. When Umar ibn Abdul Aziz becomes the wali, or the one who is in charge of Medina, he fills it with justice. There's no place to live better than Al-Medina. Then he gives him power over Medina, Mecca, Ta'if, and in the end, the whole of Hijaz. So everywhere else in the Khilafah is suffering from injustice. People's wealth is being taken. People's rights are being violated and taken away from them. People's property, they're not being dealt with justice at all. Except for the Hijaz, where Umar ibn Abdul Aziz is in charge. Al-Hajjaj. Who was Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf? Who was he? Yeah? He's a tyrant. What did he do? This guy answers all the questions. What's your name? Musa. Musa knows it all, yeah? So let's have someone else. Anyone else? Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, what was he very famous for? Huh? The older mashayikh at the back who was sitting on the wall. One of you guys. What was he known for? You've already heard he's a tyrant. What was he known for? Yeah? MashaAllah. The tyrant, you have to mention the good thing about him. Yeah? Yeah, he was a tyrant, But when it came to Qur'an, he knew his Qur'an inside out. He's the one who actually put, the dots on the Qur'an. He did that. Okay? But what was he famous for? This is not what he's famous for. Yep. Killing, bloodshed. And not any old Muslim. The Sahaba that were remaining. He would kill them. The tyrant like this, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. Now Umar ibn Abdul Aziz hears that Al-Hajjaj is coming to make Umrah. Okay? He sends a message to Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik. He says to him, he's coming, Al-Hajjaj is coming, tell him he can't come to Medina. A tyrant like him cannot come to Medina. He makes his Umrah and he leaves. Or he makes his Hajj and he leaves from Mecca. He has no entry, no right to come to Al-Medina. Someone unjust like him is not allowed. The Khalifa at the time has great respect for Umar. So he says to Al-Hajjaj, you know what? Go and do your Umrah or Hajj, but you can't go to Medina. Because there's someone in Medina who doesn't like you. Al-Hajjaj is going to accept that? He says, no way. So he starts working on Al-Walid. Until Al-Walid dismisses Umar ibn Abdul Aziz from leadership. And then he's leaving Medina and he's crying. He's crying. So he's asked by his faithful servant and helper and aide, Muzahim, asked him, why are you crying? He says, you know the hadith that Medina throws out the impurities from it? I fear that I am from the impurity, that's why I'm being expelled. Muzahim says, no way, this is not you. It's only a matter of time. Al-Walid, he dies. And as was the norm for Banu Umayyah, they would pass down leadership to family members. So the next family member, Sulaiman, he becomes the Khalifa. Sulaiman is much better and more just than Al-Walid was. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he becomes close to Sulaiman. So then one time, they're walking together and it's raining and there's a storm and there's lightning and there's thunder. And Sulaiman is clearly scared and in fear of his life. And then Umar ibn Abdul Aziz says to him, look, this is how you are with the mercy of Allah. So how then will you be with the anger of Allah? Rain is the mercy of Allah descending. If you're like this, just imagine how you'll be if the anger of Allah descends. Another time, they're making Hajj and they look upon the amount of Hujjaj. And Sulaiman, he is the Khalifa. He says, look at all of these people here making Hajj. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he gives him an advice and he says, you know what? Look at them. Look at them carefully. Because every single one of them is going to argue against you, Yawm al-Qiyamah. They're going to be the ones who are taking you to account, Yawm al-Qiyamah. They're going to complain about you, every single one. He doesn't mince any of his words. He says it as it is. Now, Sulaiman grows old and he becomes ill and he's going to pass away. His son, one of them is too young to take on the position of Khalifa. The other one is missing. So he says to his faithful minister and advisor, Raja ibn Haywa, he says to him, who shall I appoint to be the next Khalifa? Raja says to him, there's no one better that I know for this position than Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. So he writes it down in a book. He seals it with his seal. And he says, he calls all of his relatives, all of the elite. And he says to them, all of you pledge allegiance to the name that I have written in this book. They all say, who is it? Who? We need to know before we agree and give a pledge of allegiance. He says, no, you're going to agree and you're going to give your pledge of allegiance, or I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and none of you will get anything. So then they agree. And they go to Raja saying, who's in there? Whose name? Whose name? He doesn't tell anyone. He says, this is a secret between me and the Khalifa. The Khalifa dies. The book is opened. The elite are all present. Any one of them could be the leader. They open it, Raja reads it out. The Khalifa is now Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. And suddenly they hear intense crying. It's in the masjid. In a corner they look, it's Umar ibn Abdul Aziz crying. The responsibility that he felt at that moment, after a life of luxuries, living the life. Raja says, I saw him while he was young, growing up, and he sent me to buy some clothing for him. And at that time, I bought him some clothing worth 500 dinar. 500, this is huge amount of money. And what did he say at that time? He said, it's a really good piece of cloth, it's a really good outfit, except that it's cheap. Except that it's cheap. He lived the life. At that moment, he realized, I'm responsible for the whole ummah. He stands up on the minbar and he says, all of you are free from the pledge of allegiance that you gave. I release you from it. You do not have to take me as your leader. They all turn around and they say, we will not accept anyone except you. So from that moment, he's the Khalifa. What does he do? He goes to his house. He's going towards his house, and they bring him the entourage of the elite, the horses. You can think of the carriages, the servants. He says, what's this? He says, now you're the Khalifa. You have to follow certain protocols. You have to go in this. You can't use your own little baghla, this mule that you used to ride. You can't have that. He says, I got nothing to do with this. Leave it. I'm going to use my own mule that I used to, and I'm going to go to my house. They say, you can't go to your house. You have to go to the palace, because now you're going to accept the guests and you're going to see the dignitaries and everyone else. He says, no, I'm going to my house, which was a mere hut, and that's where I'm going to live. From that moment on, because of the responsibility that he has, there was no house. There was no house in this ummah except they lived a better life than he lived. He had lentils for every meal, to the point where his servants were getting fed up with the same food day in, day out, and they were complaining. But he would eat that. One time he's out and he asks his servant, how are the people doing? His servant remarks, and truthfully he says, you know what? Everyone's relaxing and enjoying life except for me, you, and our riding animal. We're the only ones suffering. What was life like that? He brought Banu Umayyah, he brought all the elite, and he said to them, right, all your wealth, everything that you have, you're going to return it all to Baytul Mal. It doesn't belong to you. You and your forefathers took it from the people, and it's their right. They refused. He said, all the people he had announced in the whole of the Khilafah, anyone who has been subjected to this dhulm, their property, their rights have been taken, come to me and I will return your rights to you. So he returned all the property to all of the people. And then on top of that, he's actually taking care of all these affairs, and he gets tired. From morning, from Fajr until Dhuhr, he's been doing this, so he becomes tired. He says, you know what? You people wait, I'm going to have a little rest, and then I'll come back and deal with it. His son, Abdul Malik, he comes. And he finds out his father's not here, and all these people are waiting. His son is his father's son. He walks in upon his father after getting permission, and he says to his father, Father, what's going on? Omar says, I was just taking a rest, so I have strength to deal with them. Look at the response of the son that got the tarbiyah from Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. The son, he says, Father, you feel secure that the qiyamah will come and you are in here resting while the people are waiting at your door to give them back their rights. Immediately Umar jumps, gets out there and deals with all the responsibilities, returning all the wealth. This is what he does. He fills the earth with justice like it was filled with injustice, to the point there's no poor that will accept zakah. Not only this, then he has to find people to give money to because Bayt al-Mal is so full. So he says, anyone who has injuries where he can't work, give them money so they don't have to work. Then there's too much wealth. He has to give. So he says, anyone who wants to get married, we will pay for their marriages. And still there's too much wealth. He says, right, anyone who needs their houses furnished, we will pay for their furnishings of their houses. The earth is filled with such justice that the shepherds and the Bedouins from the desert, they come to visit and they say, something's happened. Do you have a righteous leader who has taken the Khilafah? The people ask, why are you saying that? What's wrong in your areas? They say, you know what? We have no fear of the wolf attacking our animals anymore. There's justice to that point. The world has changed. But as you know, the war between good and evil never stops. Banu Umayyah, that he took their wealth and returned it to the people, are angry with him. So one of them, Yazid ibn Abdul Malik, he pays a boy to poison the drink of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. After 2 years, 5 months and 5 days, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz drinks his drink and realizes this is poisoned. Those around him say, it looks like you've been affected by something. He says it's poison. He knows who did it, the boy. He calls the boy. And he says to him, who told you to do this? The boy tells him, it's Yazid ibn Abdul Malik. He says, and what did he offer you? He says, he offered me 1,000 darahim, 1,000 and my freedom from being a slave. He says, as for the 1,000, give it to Bayt al-Mal and return it. As for you, run from here and make sure you're never seen again. Because if people find out you're the one who poisoned me and I died because of it, they're going to kill you. Look at the mercy, the justice, the mercy. He goes. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz dies because of that poison. The whole of the Khilafah, the whole of the Ummah cry, as if it was their father who died. That's because he didn't live for himself. He prayed every single night. He sat with the scholars and the reminders were given about death every night. He lived as the poorest person amongst the people. He established the justice that his great-grandfather Umar ibn al-Khattab had written down, the fatwa that he gave, the way he used to live, the way he used to command. That made him a boy who changed the world. It looked like a dream. When you read his history, it's like you're reading something miraculous. But he was a normal human being. He was like any one of the youth that we have around us. You can change the world just like he did, if you have his characteristics. So what were the most important characteristics that he had? What were they? Taqwa, number one, taqwa. What else? Yep. Integrity. Where did he get that integrity from? It was about thinking about, what did he think about every night? Death. The reality of knowing tomorrow or the next moment, I could be standing in front of Allah and He's going to ask me about everything. There's no escape. Then after that, what other characteristic did he have? What else? Yep. Mercy. Yeah, mercy. What else? Intelligence. He took the intelligence of the most intellectual person after the prophets, after Abu Bakr, Umar ibn al-Khattab. He asked for his knowledge to be brought to him, his books from his family, and he studied, and he used, and he implemented. What else? Yep. Justice. Justice. And there's something else very important. Musa. Humility, yep, 100%. Sabr. Okay? These characteristics. Yusuf alayhi salam summarizes them for us, all of them in 2. Okay? There was quite a few that we mentioned here. Yusuf alayhi salam, you want to change the world? He stipulates for you 2 characteristics. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. He says, the person who has taqwa of Allah, it means remembering I'm about to stand in front of Allah and answer every question. It means only doing the halal and even refraining from some halal, so you're never in any doubt about what you're doing. Staying away from every haram because you fear standing in front of Allah. And the second thing, putting up with whatever you're going to face and dealing with every challenge. And on top of that, knowing that Allah sees what you're doing and nothing will ever go to waste. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.